The drilling machine hit something solid 3 kilometers beneath the surface of Corvin 7, Dr. Myra. Kane watched the readings on her scanner and felt her heart skip a beat. After 18 months of digging through ancient rock and fossilized dirt, they had finally found what they came looking for. "Stop the drill," she called out to her team. The massive excavation equipment powered down with a low rumble that echoed across the dead planet's surface. Around the dig site, dozens of alien workers from 3 different species stopped what they were doing and looked toward the command tent. Ko or VEN-7 had been dead for millions of years. No atmosphere, no water, just endless gray rock under a dim red sun, but deep scans from orbit had shown something unusual buried far below the surface. Something big, something that didn't belong. The Galactic Archaeological Consortium had sent their best people to investigate. Dr. Kane led the human contingent, though most of the galaxy still thought humans were just another minor species that had barely figured out faster than light travel. The real power players were here too. The Valdris had sent Professor Thane, a tall insectoid being with compound eyes and 6 arms, who could process data faster than any computer. The Krex Empire was represented by Commander Brock, a hulking reptilian warrior who seemed more interested in potential weapons than ancient artifacts. The Namari Collective had dispatched Engineer Yix, a energy-based life form that existed inside a mechanical shell and could interface directly with any technology they found. "What do we have down there?" Commander Brock asked, his voice a low growl that made the other team members nervous. The Krex were known throughout the galaxy as conquerors, not scholars, but even they respected the power that ancient technology could provide. Dr. Kane studied the readings carefully. "It's massive, roughly 30 meters tall and 12 meters wide. The material composition is unlike anything in our databases. Part metal, part organic compounds, but arranged in patterns that shouldn't be possible according to known physics." Professor Thane's compound eyes focused on the data screen. "The energy signatures are fascinating, dormant but not dead. Whatever this is, it was designed to last." Engineer Yix's mechanical shell hummed as it processed the information. "The construction techniques are beyond our current capabilities. This could revolutionize our understanding of the first builders." Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories about the first builders, a mysterious race that had supposedly existed tens of thousands of years ago, leaving behind impossible technology before vanishing without a trace. Most scholars thought they were just legends, but discoveries like this suggested otherwise. The excavation took another 2 weeks. Carefully, methodically, they cleared away millennia of accumulated debris. What they uncovered defied explanation. The object was roughly humanoid in shape, but made from materials that seemed to shift between metal and crystal depending on the angle of observation. Intricate patterns covered its surface, pulsing with faint light whenever their scanning equipment got too close. "It's beautiful," Dr. Kane whispered as they finally exposed the entire structure. "But what is it?" Commander Brock circled the artifact with the eye of a military strategist. "Looks like armor to me." "Battle armor for something very large. Or a statue," Professor Thane suggested. Many ancient cultures created monuments to their gods or heroes. Engineer Yix extended sensor probes from its mechanical shell, running detailed scans across the surface. "Neither. This is not solid. There are hollow spaces inside. Complex internal structures and something else." "What?" Dr. Kane asked. "Life signs." The camp fell silent. Even the constant background hum of their equipment seemed to fade away. Impossible," Commander Brock said. "Nothing could survive 50,000 years in stasis." "The readings don't lie," Engineer Yix replied. "Faint, but definitely organic activity. Respiration, neural activity, cellular regeneration, whatever is inside this shell is alive." Dr. Kane felt a chill that had nothing to do with Corvin 7's cold atmosphere. "We need to contact the orbital station immediately. This changes everything." Within hours, representatives from all 3 major galactic powers had arrived at the dig site. The discovery was too important to leave to a simple archaeological team. If there really was a living member of the first builders inside this artifact, the political and technological implications would reshape the entire galaxy. The Valdris wanted to study it carefully, using their advanced scientific methods to unlock its secrets without causing damage. The Krex Empire saw it as a potential weapon, something that could give them an edge over their enemies. The Nomari Collective was interested in the technology itself, wondering what innovations they could extract and adapt for their own use, but Dr. Kane had a different concern. As the only human on the team, she had access to historical databases that the other species didn't know existed. While the galaxy at large considered humans to be newcomers who had only recently developed space travel, the truth was more complicated. Humanity had been exploring the galaxy longer than most people realized, and their databases contained references to artifacts like this one. Late that night, while the alien delegations argued over jurisdiction and extraction procedures, Dr. Kane ran her own private scans of the artifact. What she found made her blood run cold. The internal atmosphere readings showed an oxygen-nitrogen mixture that was almost identical to Earth's atmosphere. The life signs were consistent with a humanoid organism roughly 2 meters tall. Most disturbing of all, carbon dating suggested that whatever was inside had only been in stasis for around 50,000 years, not the millions of years that most first builder artifacts dated to. This wasn't ancient alien technology. This was something else entirely. As she watched, the faint energy patterns on the artifact's surface began to pulse faster. The life signs were getting stronger. Whatever was inside wasn't just alive, it was starting to wake up. Dr. Kane realized that they had less time than anyone thought. Soon, very soon, they would find out exactly what the first builders had left behind on this dead world. And she had a terrible feeling that the galaxy wasn't prepared for the answer. The research station Meridian hung in space above Corvin 7 like a metallic spider, its multiple docking arms extending toward the massive cargo ship that carried their precious discovery. Dr. Myra Kane floated in the observation deck's zero gravity, watching as the artifact was carefully maneuvered into the station's main research bay. 3 days had passed since they had extracted the mysterious shell from the planet's surface, and the situation had grown more complicated by the hour. What started as a simple archaeological expedition had turned into a political crisis that threatened to destabilize the entire galactic region. The Valdris Science Council had claimed ownership based on their discovery rights. The Krex Empire argued that anything potentially military in nature fell under their jurisdiction. The Nomari Collective insisted that advanced technology should be shared among all spacefaring civilizations. Meanwhile, smaller governments were demanding representation, and rumors of the discovery had leaked to the galactic media. Dr. Kane to the main lab, came the announcement over the station's communication system. Immediate priority. She pushed off from the observation window and glided through the corridors toward the research section. The artifact now sat in the center of a massive chamber surrounded by scanning equipment from a dozen different species. The crystalline shell seemed to absorb and reflect the various sensor beams and patterns that hurt to look at directly. Professor Thane was coordinating the scan data with his usual methodical precision. The internal readings are becoming more active, he reported. Neural activity has increased by 30% in the last 6 hours. Respiration rate is climbing steadily. Commander Brock paced around the artifact like a caged predator. How long until it wakes up completely? Engineer Yix consulted its internal calculations. Based on current progression rates, full consciousness should occur within 18 to 24 hours. Then we need to establish containment protocols immediately. A new voice interrupted. Admiral Kane of the Valdris fleet had arrived with a full security detail. If this being represents first builder technology, it could possess capabilities beyond our understanding. Dr. Kane studied the readings on her portable scanner. Something was bothering her about the data, but she couldn't quite identify what it was. Have we attempted any communication protocols yet? Negative, Admiral Kane replied. Until we understand what we're dealing with, all contact attempts are suspended. That was when the first crack appeared. It started as a hairline fracture near what appeared to be the artifact's head region. The crack spread slowly, accompanied by a low harmonic vibration that seemed to resonate through the station's hull. Emergency alarms began sounding as electromagnetic pulses erupted from the shell, overloading sensitive equipment throughout the research bay. "Evacuation protocols," Admiral Kane shouted over the noise. "Clear the chamber immediately." "Wait," Dr. Kane called out, but it was too late. The security teams were already herding everyone toward the exits. Through the chaos, she caught a glimpse of something that made her heart stop. Through the widening cracks in the shell, she could see pale skin and dark hair. Human features. Human proportions. The artifact wasn't containing some ancient alien being. There was a human inside, but that was impossible. Humans had only been in space for a few centuries, and this artifact had been buried for 50,000 years. Unless the official histories were wrong. Unless humanity had been in space far longer than anyone realized, the evacuation was completed just as the shell began to split open completely. From the safety of the observation deck, the research teams watched as crystalline fragments fell. A way to reveal a complete stasis pod? Inside, surrounded by a glowing blue fluid, floated a human male in his 30s wearing some kind of advanced environmental suit. "By the void?" Commander Brock whispered. "What is that thing?" Professor Thane was frantically analyzing the new data. The biological readings are completely outside known parameters. Bone density is twice normal levels. Muscle fiber composition suggests strength capabilities far beyond baseline human norms. Neural activity patterns indicate extensive cybernetic integration. "Enhanced," Dr. Kane said quietly. "He's been enhanced." Admiral Kane turned to her. "You know what this is?" Before she could answer, the stasis pod systems activated. The blue fluid drained away, and the pod's lid began to open with a soft hiss of escaping atmosphere. The figure inside drew a deep breath and opened his eyes. Even from a distance, Dr. Kane could see that those eyes were completely aware and alert. No confusion, no disorientation from 50,000 years of sleep. Whoever this was had been designed to wake up ready for action. The man sat up slowly, taking in his surroundings with the calm assessment of a trained military officer. When his gaze fell on the observation windows where the research teams were watching, he didn't seem surprised. He simply nodded as if he had expected to find an audience waiting for him. Then he stood up. The movement was fluid and controlled, displaying perfect balance and coordination despite spending millennia in stasis. He was tall, perhaps 2 meters, with the kind of physical presence that commanded attention even through reinforced glass. He began examining the research equipment surrounding his pod, his hands moving with practiced efficiency as he interfaced with systems that should have been completely alien to him. Within minutes, he had accessed the station's computer network and was downloading vast amounts of data. "He's in our systems," Engineer Yix reported with something approaching panic. "Somehow he's bypassing all our security protocols." "Cut the network connections," Admiral Kane ordered. "I can't. He's already established control over primary functions." On the screens around the observation deck, streams of data began flowing, in languages and formats that none of them recognized. The human was accessing historical records, star charts, technological databases, and military deployments. He was learning about the current state of galactic civilization with frightening speed. When he finished his data download, the man looked directly at the observation windows again. This time, he smiled. It was not a friendly expression. Dr. Kane realized that they had made a terrible mistake. This wasn't just some preserved human from an ancient colony ship. The enhancements, the advanced stasis technology, the way he had awakened without any confusion or disorientation. This was something else entirely. This was a weapon that had been waiting 50,000 years to wake up. The first thing Alex Reed noticed when he woke up was the silence. After 50,000 years of listening to the Aurora's engines humming through the ship's hull, the absence of that familiar sound told him everything he needed to know. His ship was gone, his crew was gone. His mission had failed. The second thing he noticed was that he was being watched by aliens through the transparent walls of What appeared to be a research facility, he could see dozens of beings representing species he didn't recognize. Tall insectoid creatures with compound eyes, massive reptilian humanoids with scales and claws, floating mechanical entities that sparked with electrical energy, and scattered among them a few humans who looked just as shocked as everyone else. Alex's enhanced memory began processing the data downloads he had completed during his awakening sequence. The information painted a clear picture of what had happened during his long sleep. Humanity's first wave of colony ships had vanished from galactic records. The species that now dominated local space had risen to power in humanity's absence. Most disturbing of all, the current galactic powers had classified humans as a minor, recently spacefaring race with limited technology and influence. Someone had been working very hard to hide the truth about humanity's capabilities. A voice spoke through the facility's communication system, translated into perfect English by some kind of universal device. "Greetings, unknown being. I am Professor Thane of the Valdris Science Council. We mean you no harm. Can you understand our words?" Alex looked directly at the observation windows and spoke clearly. "I understand you perfectly. My name is Captain Alex Reed, formerly of the human colony ship Aurora. One have been in stasis for approximately 50,734 years, 6 months, and 12 days. The reaction from the observation deck was immediate. Voices rose in multiple alien languages, and he could see heated discussions breaking out among the various species present. The humans in the group looked particularly disturbed. "That is impossible," a different voice said, this one rougher and more aggressive. "Humans have only achieved spaceflight within the last few centuries." Alex smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Is that what they told you?" He began walking around the research chamber, examining the equipment with professional interest. His enhanced physiology allowed him to process visual information at superhuman speeds, and within minutes he had identified the function and capabilities of every device in the room. The technology was impressive, but not beyond what he had expected to see after 50 millennia of development. "Please remain in the center of the chamber," the aggressive voice continued. Alex now identified it as belonging to one of the reptilian beings. "We need to establish proper first contact protocols." "First contact?" Alex repeated, his voice carrying a note of dark amusement. "Is that what you think this is?" He approached one of the scanning devices and placed his hand on its surface. His colonial enhancements included biological interfaces that allowed direct connection with compatible technology. Within seconds, he had gained access to the device's data stream and begun uploading information to his own internal storage systems. Alarms began sounding throughout the facility. "He's accessing our systems again," came a panicked voice over the speakers. "All security teams to Research Bay 7 immediately." Alex finished his data transfer and stepped away from the scanner. "You should know that I'm not just some primitive human who stumbled into a stasis pod. I'm a colonial vanguard operative, genetically and cybernetically enhanced for long-term survival in hostile environments. My ship was equipped with the most advanced technology that humanity could develop. And we weren't the only ones." Heavy blast doors began sliding shut around the research chamber. Through the closing gaps, Alex could see armored figures taking positions in the corridors beyond. The correct security forces, if his downloaded data was correct. Trained warriors from a species that had conquered half the local arm of the galaxy. "Contain the subject," the reptilian voice ordered. "Use minimum necessary force." Alex shook his head. "That's your first mistake." The blast doors finished closing, sealing him inside the research chamber. But the walls were transparent aluminum, designed to contain specimens for study rather than warriors designed for combat. Alex's enhanced muscles could generate force levels equivalent to a small industrial machine, and his reaction time was faster than most organic beings could even perceive. He hit the wall at a dead run. The transparent aluminum cracked on the first impact. The second blow sent spiderweb fractures racing across its entire surface. The third punch shattered it completely, sending fragments cascading across the corridor beyond. The correct security team opened fire immediately, using neural disruptor weapons designed to incapacitate organic targets by overwhelming their nervous systems. The energy beam struck Alex directly in the chest and had absolutely no effect. His enhanced physiology included hardened neural pathways specifically designed to resist electromagnetic interference. He moved through the security team like a force of nature. Enhanced reflexes allowed him to dodge their weapons fire while closing to hand-to-hand combat range. Enhanced strength meant that even glancing blows from his fists were enough to send armored Krex warriors flying through the air within 30 seconds. The entire security team was down. Alex picked up one of their discarded weapons and examined it with professional interest. The design was elegant but limited, clearly intended for use against unenhanced organic targets. He slung it over his shoulder and began moving deeper into the station. His enhanced hearing picked up radio communications from throughout the facility. Multiple security teams were converging on his position. Emergency protocols were being implemented. Distress signals were being sent to nearby military vessels, all of which was exactly what Alex had expected. He accessed a wall-mounted information terminal and downloaded a complete layout of the research station. His target was the main computer core, where he could access the facility's complete database and communication systems. There were things he needed to know and messages he needed to send. The corridor ahead was filled with more Krex warriors, these ones carrying heavier weapons and wearing full combat armor. Alex ducked back around the corner as energy bolts scorched the walls where he had been standing. "Attention, unknown human," came a broadcast over the station's speakers. "You are surrounded. Surrender now, and we will guarantee your safety." Alex keyed the communicator on the weapon he had acquired. "My name is Captain Alex Ridd, and I'm not surrendering to anyone. You made a mistake when you decided to study me instead of talking to me. Now you're going to learn why humanity survived long enough to spread across the galaxy." He disabled the safety systems on the Krex weapon, overloading its power cell to create an improvised explosive. The blast cleared the corridor ahead and opened a path toward the station's central core. As he advanced through the smoke and debris, Alex began broadcasting on all available frequencies. His message was simple and direct, transmitted in dozens of languages to every inhabited system within communication range. "This is Captain Alex Reed of the human colony vessel Aurora, awakening after 50,000 years in stasis. I call upon all hidden human settlements, all dormant monitoring stations, all concealed bases and facilities throughout this region of space. The time of hiding is over. The time of waiting is done. Begin awakening protocols immediately." Throughout the galaxy, ancient artifacts that various civilizations had dismissed as archaeological curiosities began responding to his signal. Stasis pods started opening. Hidden bases began powering up their systems. Camouflage ships began emerging from asteroid belts and gas. Giant atmospheres, the aliens had thought they were studying some primitive relic from humanity's distant past. They were about to discover that they had awakened humanity's future. Emergency lights bathed the Meridian Research Station in pools of red as Alex Reed moved through its corridors like a ghost. His enhanced senses allowed him to navigate in near darkness, while his internal mapping system tracked the optimal route to the main computer core. Behind him, the sounds of pursuit grew more desperate by the hour. The Krex security forces had been reinforced twice since his escape from the research chamber. The Valdris had contributed their own peacekeeping troops. Even the normally nonviolent Nomari Collective had deployed combat drones to help contain what they were calling a catastrophic security breach. None of it mattered. Alex had been trained for operations exactly like this. He paused at an intersection, listening to the radio chatter from the hunting teams. They were coordinating their search patterns, trying to corner him in the station's lower levels. What they didn't understand was that he wasn't trying to escape. He was exactly where he wanted to be. The main computer core lay just ahead, protected by heavy security doors and automated defense systems. Under normal circumstances, it would take a specialized team hours to break through those defenses. Alex did it in 4 minutes. His biological interfaces allowed him to communicate directly with the station's AI systems. but bypassing their security protocols by speaking to them in machine language. To the automated defenses, he appeared to be a legitimate maintenance technician performing routine upgrades. The heavy doors slid open without resistance. Inside the core chamber, streams of data flowed through crystalline processing matrices that hummed with barely contained energy. Alex placed his hands on the primary access node and felt the station's entire information network open up to him. What he found there changed everything. The galactic databases contained extensive records of human artifacts discovered throughout the local stellar region. Ships, bases, monitoring stations, even entire cities, all dismissed as belonging to some primitive extinct species that had briefly achieved spaceflight before disappearing. The major powers had been collecting human technology for centuries, without realizing what it was. More disturbing were the military intelligence reports. The Krex Empire had documented dozens of encounters with unknown vessels that appeared and vanished without warning. The Valdris had recorded mysterious signals, originating from dead systems where nothing should exist. The Nomari Collective had detected massive energy signatures in the deep void between stars. Humanity hadn't died out. They had been watching, waiting, and preparing. Alex began downloading everything, storing the data in his enhanced memory systems. As the transfer completed, he accessed the station's long-range communications array and began broadcasting a new signal, this one encoded in frequencies that only human technology could detect. This is Captain Alex Reed broadcasting on all colonial emergency channels. Awakening protocols are confirmed active. Request immediate status reports from all monitoring stations, defensive positions, and deep space assets. The concealment period is now over. Repeat, the concealment period is now over. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Throughout the galaxy, signals began appearing from locations that galactic surveys had marked as empty space. Hidden bases powered up their transmitters for the first time in millennia. Camouflage ships revealed themselves, dropping stealth fields that had kept them invisible for centuries. Monitoring stations embedded in asteroids and moon bases began reporting their status and capabilities. The scope of it was staggering. Humanity had been present in the galaxy for far longer than anyone had suspected, building a vast network of hidden installations while allowing other species to believe they were extinct. Status report from Deep Station Prometheus, came one. Transmission, crew complement, 40,000. Fleet assets, fully operational, awaiting orders. Guardian Base Echo responding, came another. Monitoring network shows all sectors secure. Stealth protocols maintained throughout concealment. Period. Colonial Transport Magellan reporting, added a third voice. Cargo, 1 million colonists in stasis. Destination coordinates locked and ready. Alex smiled as the reports continued to flood in. The galaxy thought it was dealing with one awakened human. They were about to discover that they were surrounded by millions. His reverie was interrupted by the sound of cutting torches working on the computer core's main entrance. The hunting teams had finally tracked him down, and they were preparing for a final assault on his position. Alex activated the station's internal communication system, broadcasting his voice throughout every corridor and compartment. Attention all personnel aboard Meridian Station. My name is Captain Alex Reed of the Human Colonial Service. You have approximately 10 minutes to evacuate this facility before it becomes a combat zone. A familiar voice responded immediately. This is Admiral Kane of the Valdris. Defense Force, surrender now, and we will guarantee your safe treatment according to galactic law. Galactic law? Alex repeated with dark amusement. You mean the same legal system that classified my entire species as extinct and allowed you to raid our technology for the past 50,000 years? He began activating the station's emergency systems, venting atmosphere from non-essential sections and routing power away from life support in the outer rings. Not enough to kill anyone, but enough to force a general evacuation. You have 8 minutes, he announced. Through the station's sensor network, he watched the evacuation procedures begin. Most of the research staff and support personnel were heading for the escape pods, but the military forces were taking up defensive positions throughout the facility's central core. They were planning to fight. That suited Alex perfectly. He began systematically shutting down the station's systems, leaving only emergency power for essential functions. The artificial gravity flickered and died, leaving everyone floating in zero-G conditions. The lighting failed, plunging most compartments into darkness. Even the air recycling systems went offline, forcing everyone to rely on emergency oxygen. Supplies. For the alien forces, these conditions made combat nearly impossible. For Alex, who had trained extensively in zero-G warfare, they provided a significant tactical advantage. He left the computer core through a maintenance shaft, moving through the station's infrastructure like a predator stalking its prey. His enhanced hearing picked up the confused communications from the hunting teams as they tried to coordinate in the chaotic environment he had created. The first team he encountered was a group of Valdris peacekeepers who were trying to secure the main communications array. Alex approached them through the ventilation system, emerging directly behind their position. The engagement lasted less than 10 seconds. The second team consisted of Krex warriors in full combat armor, positioned to guard the primary power distribution center. Alex used his technical knowledge to overload their equipment through the station's electrical grid, then attacked while they were dealing with system failures. By the time he reached the third team, word of his tactics had spread throughout the remaining forces. They had abandoned their fixed positions and were moving in tight groups, watching for attacks from unexpected directions. It didn't help them. Alex had spent decades training for operations in hostile environments against superior numbers. Every corridor became a battlefield where his enhanced reflexes and superior knowledge of the station's layout gave him overwhelming advantages. The alien forces, trained for conventional combat scenarios, found themselves completely outmatched. Within 2 hours. Meridian Station belonged to him. From the main command center, Alex watched as evacuation ships departed for the safety of nearby vessels. Admiral Kane's flagship maintained a safe distance, its weapons trained on the station but unable to fire without risking the destruction of the invaluable research data stored in its computers. Alex opened a communication channel to the flagship. "Admiral Kane, this is Captain Reed. I believe we need to talk." "What do you want?" came the terse reply. "Information exchange," Alex said simply. "You want to know about human capabilities and intentions." "I want to know what happened to my people after we went into hiding. I suggest we arrange a proper first contact meeting, and if we refuse?" Alex gestured toward the sensor displays showing the growing number of human signals appearing throughout local space. "Then you'll be dealing with a lot more than one awakened colonial operative. The concealment period is over, Admiral. Humanity is back. The question is whether we're going to be friends or enemies." The communication channel remained silent for several long minutes. When Admiral Kane finally responded, his voice carried a note of resignation. "What are your terms for this meeting?" Alex began composing his reply, knowing that the next few hours would determine the future relationship between humanity and the galactic community that had grown up in their absence. The conference chamber aboard Admiral Kane's flagship held representatives from 17 different galactic civilizations, but all eyes were focused on the single human sitting calmly at the center of the room. Alex Reed looked completely relaxed. Despite being surrounded by some of the most powerful military leaders in known space, Dr. Myra Kane sat with the human delegation, still struggling to process everything that had happened over the past week. The discovery on Corvin 7 had triggered revelations that were reshaping everything they thought they knew about galactic history. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Admiral Kane said, his insectoid features rigid with controlled tension. "You claim that humanity has maintained a secret presence throughout this entire stellar region for the past 50,000 years," Alex nodded. "Not just a presence, a civilization." "We never went extinct, Admiral. We went underground." Professor Thane leaned forward, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights. "But why? What possible reason could you have had for such deception?" "Survival," Alex replied simply. "When humanity first began exploring the galaxy, we discovered that we weren't alone. More importantly, we learned that the galaxy was a dangerous place for young species. Aggressive expansion often led to conquest or extinction, so we chose a different path. Commander Brock of the Krex Empire growled his skepticism. You expect us to believe that an entire species could remain hidden for 50 millennia? You've been living with the evidence for centuries, Alex said. Every time you discovered what you called ancient artifacts or extinct civilization remnants, you were actually finding our monitoring stations and camouflaged bases. We've been watching your development the entire time. Engineer Yix processed this information through its mechanical systems. The energy signatures we detected in deep space, the mysterious signals from dead systems, unknown vessel sightings reported by our military forces, all ours, Alex confirmed. We established a network of hidden colonies throughout the galaxy, while allowing you to believe we were nothing more than a primitive species that had briefly achieved spaceflight. It was the perfect camouflage. Dr. Kane spoke up for the first time. The Aurora, your ship. What happened to your original mission? Alex's expression grew distant. We were part of the third wave of colonial expansion. Our mission was to establish monitoring stations in this region and determine when local civilizations had developed enough for safe contact. The stasis pod you found was actually a long-term observation post designed to activate when certain technological thresholds were reached. You were spying on us, Commander Brock accused. We were preparing, Alex corrected. Humanity learned early that the galaxy rewards patience and preparation over aggression and haste. While your species were building empires and fighting wars, we were building something more sustainable. The chamber's main display activated, showing a three-dimensional map of local space. As they watched, thousands of new contact points appeared throughout the galaxy, each one representing a previously unknown human installation. Deep space habitats, Alex explained as the data flowed across the screen. Research stations hidden in asteroid belts, mining operations in dead systems, entire cities built inside hollow moons, agricultural worlds disguised as uninhabitable rocks. We've been constructing a parallel civilization while you were focused on expanding your own territories. Admiral Kane studied the display with growing alarm. How many humans are we talking about? Current population stands at approximately 800 million across 412 separate installations, Alex said. Most have been in various forms of stasis or extended hibernation to conserve resources during the concealment period. 800 million, Professor Thane whispered. You have 800 million citizens scattered throughout our space. Not your space, Alex said quietly. Unclaimed space. Empty systems that your surveys marked as worthless. The dark side of moons you never bothered to explore. Deep space regions that offered nothing of immediate value. We've been very careful not to interfere with your legitimate territorial claims. Engineer Yix extended sensor probes toward the display. The technological implications are staggering. To maintain such a network for 50,000 years would require advances far beyond our current capabilities. Colonial technology was designed for long-term survival in hostile environments, Alex explained. Self-repairing systems, closed-loop ecological processes. Assisted hibernation protocols? We built our infrastructure to last millennia without maintenance. Commander Brock leaned back in his chair, his reptilian features showing grudging respect. This is why we could never catch your ships. You weren't just hiding individual vessels. You had entire support networks. Every unknown contact your forces encountered was someone heading home to a base you didn't know existed, Alex confirmed. Our pilots could disappear into deep space because they had somewhere to disappear to. Dr. Kane raised her hand hesitantly. Alex, I have to ask, what are humanity's intentions now that the concealment period is over? Alex was quiet for a long moment before responding. That depends largely on this meeting. We've spent 50,000 years observing your civilizations, learning your strengths and weaknesses, understanding your cultures and motivations. We know you better than you know yourselves. And what conclusions did you reach? Admiral Kane asked. That you're not ready for the truth about what exists beyond this galactic region, Alex said. The civilizations you think of as galactic powers are actually quite small in the broader scope of the universe. There are things out there that make your empires look like children playing with toys. The chamber fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. You're talking about external threats, Commander Brock said. I'm talking about reality, Alex replied. Humanity didn't go into hiding just to avoid local conflicts. We were preparing for something much larger. The galaxy isn't as isolated as you think it is. Professor Thane's compound eyes focused intently. On Alex, you've had contact with extragalactic civilizations. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected signs of activity from several neighboring galaxies, Alex confirmed. Most of it appears to be exploratory in nature, but some of the energy signatures suggest military reconnaissance. We estimate first contact with external powers will occur within the next 1,000 years. Engineer Yix processed this information rapidly, and humanity has been preparing for this eventuality for 50 millennia. Every hidden base, every camouflaged ship, every technological advancement we've made has been designed with that goal in mind, Alex said. We've been building a civilization that can survive contact with powers that span multiple galaxies. Dr. Kane felt a chill as she realized the scope of what Alex was describing. That's why you enhanced your colonists. You were creating soldiers for a war that hasn't happened yet. We were creating survivors, Alex corrected. People who could function in environments and situations that baseline humans couldn't handle. The enhancements aren't just military. They're adaptive improvements, designed to help humanity thrive in a universe that's much more dangerous than any of your species realize. Admiral Kane stood and began pacing around the chamber. You're asking us to believe that everything we know about galactic politics and territory is essentially meaningless. I'm telling you that your current conflicts are luxury problems, Alex said bluntly. Border disputes and resource competition won't matter when civilizations that span dozens of galaxies decide to expand in this direction. So what do you want from us? Commander Brock demanded. Alex stood as well, his enhanced physique making him tower over most of the assembled delegates. Partnership. Humanity spent 50,000 years learning how to hide and survive. You've spent the same period learning how to build and expand. We need each other's strengths. He gestured toward the display showing human installations throughout the galaxy. Our hidden infrastructure can support massive population growth and industrial development. Our technology can enhance your existing capabilities. Our experience can help prepare you for what's coming. And in return, Professor Thane asked, you stop treating each other as enemies and start working together as allies, Alex said. The Valdris scientific capabilities, the Krex military strength, the Nomari technological innovation, human survival expertise, all working toward a common goal. Engineer Yix hummed thoughtfully. A unified galactic defense initiative. A unified galactic civilization, Alex corrected. One that can stand as equals when the external powers arrive instead of being conquered or absorbed. The chamber erupted in heated discussions as delegates conferred with their respective governments through secure communication channels. The political implications of Alex's proposal would require approval from the highest levels of each civilization. While they debated, Alex activated his own communication system and began broadcasting to the human installations throughout the galaxy. All stations, this is Captain Reed, begin Phase 2 awakening protocols. Full population revival authorized. Industrial production to commence immediately. Throughout the galaxy, the response was immediate. Stasis pods that had remained sealed for millennia began opening as millions of humans awakened to resume their lives. Hidden factories powered up their assembly lines. Camouflaged shipyards began construction of vessels designed with 500 centuries of accumulated technological advancement. Dr. Kane watched the activity displays in amazement. How long have you been planning this moment? Since the day we decided to go into hiding, Alex replied. Every human who entered stasis knew they might sleep for tens of thousands of years. Every base commander understood that they were building something for future generations to inherit. This isn't just first contact, Dr. Kane. This is humanity's graduation from a hidden species to a galactic power. Admiral Kane returned to his seat, his expression thoughtful. Assuming our governments agree to this alliance, what would be the first steps? Technology transfer, Alex said immediately. Our stealth capabilities combined with your manufacturing capacity. Our defensive systems integrated with your existing military infrastructure. Our survival techniques taught to your colonization programs. And the long-term goals? Commander Brock asked. Alex smiled, and for the first time it carried genuine warmth instead of predatory calculation. To make sure that when the external civilizations arrive, they find a galaxy united and prepared to defend itself. To ensure that our children inherit a universe where cooperation triumphs over conquest. He paused, looking around the chamber. At representatives from species that had spent centuries viewing each other as competitors or enemies. 50,000 years ago, humanity made a choice to hide and wait rather than fight and die. Today, I'm asking you to make a different choice. Stand with us not as subjects or allies of convenience, but as partners in building something greater than any of our civilizations could achieve alone. The chamber fell silent as the delegates considered his words. Outside, the awakening process continued as humanity emerged from its long concealment to take its place in a galaxy that was about to discover it had never been alone. The age of hiding was over. The age of preparation was beginning.